What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week, it's all about Dicks, the
Dicks,
musical. Baby. Dicks, baby. Ethan is actually joined this week by John from Life's But a Song podcast to talk about A24's very first musical.
A pair of business rivals discover that they're identical twins and decide to swap places in an attempt to trick their divorced parents to get back together. Just to note, this podcast was recorded and produced during the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the actors that are currently on strike, the movies we are covering here would not exist. As always, spoilers are ahead for Dicks the Musical. We're going to talk for, I don't know, probably 20 or 25 minutes first. We've got some substantial housekeeping that we have thoughts on, we need to talk about, we need to discuss. I need to figure out what's going on in the world of A24, because there's a lot that is happening. And then after our conversation, Ben, you're right, I am joined by John to talk about Dicks the Musical. You haven't seen this movie yet. It's not playing in your city, unfortunately. By the time when this episode comes out, this movie will not be nationwide, actually, which is pretty crazy. It doesn't go nationwide until October 20th. So I will just give a little tease. I highly recommend going to see this movie, and it is probably the hardest I've laughed in a movie in my life. Also, maybe the most disturbed I've ever been.
Okay.
So, excellent combination of real, true A24 core here with Dicks the Musicals. I had a great time, and I'm really excited for when you watch it. Whenever you see it, we'll have to reconvene.
Once Salt Lake finally gets it, I even looked just now as we were getting ready, and still there's not even on the 20th. It's not saying we don't have it yet. So who knows we get it, but that is an amazing review. The most disturbing yet funny thing you've seen in a long time. What else could you ask for? Absolutely
just unhinged business. Really, really cool. And I will just say Megan Thee Stallion for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars this year. Let's get her to perform. Let's get her in front of the cameras. Let's make it happen because she deserves it. So sublime in the movie. Okay, so I mentioned some housekeeping. Let's start with some trailers. We have two new trailers that we need to talk about, and then some kind of more expansive A24 brand type talk discussion of what's going on with the brand as a whole. So do you want to start with the Iron Claw trailer, or do you want to start with the Curse trailer? Because we got an actual trailer for the Curse this time, not just like a weird 15-second thing.
Let's go with the Curse, man. Like I mean, that came out, it's today that it came out.
Yeah, and Thursday. We're recording on Thursday the 12th. And it came out today,
it looks so good. You know, I mean, the fact that they were like, this is such an unhinged trailer, it looks absurd. And then suddenly we get the title card of like Academy Award winner Emma Stone. It's like, oh yeah, I forget that she's like, she's legit. And here she is with Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie's wig, just like holding her own. She looks so good. I can't wait for this. I mean, it looks, kind of like this, forget their name from HGTV, the Magnolia, whatever, looks like their version of, rebuilding homes and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm excited. That whole scene of him giving that kid that $100 and then like taking it back. It's like, and I don't know, Nathan Fielder, I'm here for him. I love Nathan For You. I think that's possibly the best TV show that's come out in the last 10 years. Like it's probably my favorite, at least. I think it's so funny. So I'm excited to see him in a more like narrative project like this. Obviously we're both big fans of the Safdies here. And I don't know if you know this, Emma Stone, she was in La La Land, and that's a pretty good movie from what I've heard. So
little flick, just a little guy,
tiny little flick. So I don't know, like all this stuff lining up just to be something great. It comes out November 10th, I believe. I don't know if they're doing one episode at a time or what the release schedule is going to be. I'm excited for us to cover it, but this looks really good.
I agree with you. I think it looks really good. What I think is really fascinating is that, is that tonight we are recording, and on October 12th is actually the premiere of the first 3 episodes, I believe, of The Curse at the New York Film Festival. So probably right now people are watching The Curse, and we'll get some initial reactions, probably in the next couple of days. I think what intrigued me the most about the trailer is it seems like this is going to go to some really dark, weird, maybe like pretty unhinged places. With kind of this narrative of like people are finally going to discover what you're really like, and like they're going to get to, you know, kind of peel the curtain back, and like the whole, you know, the Wizard of Oz situation here. I'm really fascinated to see what Benny Safdie's role is going to be in this whole show, because he's like a cameraman, and he's just giving looks, and he looks phenomenal, and it just looks hilarious. I think Emma Stone and Nathan Fielder are going to have a really, really good energy together. I think they're going to feed off of each other very well. Something More narrative is going to be really cool to see Nathan Fielder in, and just from the trailer, I think it looks really good. It looks like something special, something unique. And like you said, we don't know if we're getting like one episode a week or not. That'll kind of determine how we cover it here on the pod. Of course, we are definitely talking about this show. Comes out November 10th on Showtime. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. And the trailer to me just told me enough about like, oh, this, like, okay, I'm intrigued. Like, I want to know more. I want to watch an episode. I want to see how all this shakes out, because it really just sets the stage for like what the curse is. We don't know really what that does or what that means or how things go. So yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting. This is the winter of Emma Stone. I mean, she's got Poor Things coming out, which people are touting that she's going to win an Academy Award for. So I think that's really good for her, and I think it's great for A24.
It's a win for all of us. I'm super excited.
Everybody wins. Okay, the next trailer we got is The Iron Claw. We kind of, I feel like we just talked about this over the last couple of weeks of like, we don't have a trailer yet. We don't know when that movie's coming out. We don't know what's going on. I believe it's December 20th in theaters, if I remember correctly, or at least pretty close to
somewhere
that date.
I don't know if it's the 22nd, but it's like right around Christmas. Yeah,
really close to that date. Ben, I want to know what you thought of this trailer, because I think we have differing, maybe not differing opinions, but differing perspectives. I know nothing about the Von Erichs and wrestling, and I that's just like not my world. And you're big into wrestling. You know the story of the Von Erichs. So what did this trailer make you excited for the movie?
Yes, it made me very excited for this movie. I think they're going to do that story justice. If anyone wants like a little, 40-minute episode on kind of the history of the family. I know Vice a little while ago did like it's called like The Dark Side of Wrestling. They did a series, and you can find it on YouTube. It's really good. They did one on the Von Erichs, which was super interesting. So I would recommend that kind of, if you want to know a little bit of the history about it without going into the movie, or with going into the movie, kind of understanding what's going to happen. But the trailer itself, Zac Efron looks fucking yoked, man.
Yeah,
like
he's jacked. Jacked to the tits.
Insane, man. And they kind of did some sort of facial something for him where he's got like a really strong, I don't know if they messed with his jawline or what they did. He looks like just a little different, but you can tell it's him.
Yeah.
We got our dude, the bear, Jeremy Allen White. Like, he looks good in it too.
Harris Dickinson is in this movie. I just want to give a shout to my boy Harris Dickinson. Looks like he just really fits in with this tribe here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be awesome. And as people who just recently watched Fight Club, what's his name from Mindhunter playing the dad in there, we saw him in Fight Club. So that was kind of cool to see him there. His name is Robert Paulson. I forget the actor's name, but he's so good. Not Meatloaf, but the guy who starts the chant of his name is Robert Paulson. I can't imagine Meatloaf playing the dad.
Sick.
But yeah, I'm super excited about this. I think this looks really, really interesting and really well done. And obviously, like, we're just both big proponents of A24 stuff. So I think they're going to handle it well. And I think it's going to be a really interesting movie.
Everything that I've seen so far, because I know nothing about this story and I'm kind of trying to stay in the dark, I think it'll be a really cool social experiment for me to go into this not knowing anything about where the story is headed. So Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, I've been going to all of these comment sections and quote tweets and whatever. And I went to the A24 Reddit the other day, and obviously this trailer was posted, and I just wanted to see the first comment. Like, what are people kind of agreeing on what's being said? And the top comment is like, people who know nothing about the Valiant Erics are not ready for how crazy this story is.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, oh, fuck. Like, let's go. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I think this trailer really kicks ass. 2 incredible needle drops. Don't Fear the Reaper. One of them is just an excellent needle drop, especially in a trailer. From my perspective, it gives me just enough information to be invested in this story of like, these kids probably got really fucked up, or like something tragic happened with the family or the dad, or like something goes incredibly wrong somewhere along the line. And I think that tone is displayed really well through the trailer. I'm excited for Jeremy Allen White to like be in a different setting that's like not a kitchen. Even though he's sublime in The Bear, like this casting is really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see all these set photos that we've seen for the past several months of like, of Zac Efron looking incredibly weird are now coming to fruition. And he does look weird, but he looks really good. Like it totally matches the energy of the movie. So I'm really excited. I'd be really interested to see if / what this can do, maybe to edge out some like awards stuff, or like maybe make some categories a little more dicey or a little more interesting. Possibly a Best Supporting Actor for Jeremy Allen White, or something to that effect. I think something interesting could happen there for sure. So yeah, I'm excited for the Iron Claw. Now we have like a release date. We know it's coming, and it is during that holiday span where some really big titles are coming out. I think it'll probably be going up against The Color Purple, which is a massive Oscars play on Christmas Day. So yeah, I think this trailer looks really great, and I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait to have it all revealed to me what the crazy stuff is about the fucking Erics. I can't wait.
It's going to be a lot, but I think everyone's going to enjoy it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I want to talk about A24 and their business. So some news has recently come out over the last couple of days where A24 as a business is having some struggles. They're maybe doing some pivots and changing things up a little bit. This is a topic we've kind of touched on and talked about on our Patreon before, where we've kind of floated out the idea of like every movie that we cover on the Patreon, we're like, would this fit in the A24 catalog? That's something we ask ourselves. And I know there were specific movies where we're like, this could start a franchise for them. This could be anime for them. This could really open the door. And I think it's really fitting we're talking about this along with my conversation about Dix the Musical, the very first musical for the brand. And so this information, I'll kind of just share it and we can discuss. According to Deadline, so A24 is, or sorry, excuse me, according to The Wrap, A24 is pivoting to create some, quote, action and big IP projects, end quote, after losing millions on various films, including losing $30 million on Beau is Afraid. The studio still plans to invest in the same type of content they currently develop. This is a really kind of eye-opening moment, I think, for a lot of people when it comes to A24, that a lot of their projects don't make money. They might be incredibly successful via word of mouth or kind of being the core of the culture for a little bit, but not all of them are box office hits. What do you think of this news? Is this a good, I think in general, is this a good pivot for A24?
I really don't know. I'm curious how this will affect their brand, because that's, part of the draw to them is that they aren't doing big IP or big, franchise things.
Right.
So I'm curious, like maybe financially it'll make sense for them. We've heard a lot of directors, talking about this kind of stuff where it's like the only way to keep theaters alive is these big must-see spectacles in the movies, because no one necessarily is going to these art house or whatever more indie films. So maybe A24 just see writing on the wall. It's like, well, let's get involved in that stuff then and bring some money in. So I don't know. I'm curious to see again, like what this does, if it finishes their brand or if it comes out being like, oh, that was actually a really smart move that they finally did that, because now we have this A24 franchise that's going to make some money. I mean, Blumhouse did a version of that with horror, when they got like Paranormal Activity, that was the thing that really set off for them. I think that cost like $215,000 to make. It made like $190 million or something. It's kind
Hmm.
of crazy. So like I don't know if A24 is going to start looking for that kind of stuff that they can franchise out if something hits, or if they're going to do with existing stuff. Are we getting Marcel the Shell 2? I
Right,
have no
right.
idea like what they're going to be doing here. Is it out of
The
existing
Whale
things?
2, The Whale Forever.
Yeah, exactly. Like what are we doing here? It'll be kind of interesting to see. I'm curious because I feel like their track record is pretty solid, at least like success wise, as
Yeah.
far as recognition in the film community. I think they're a rather respected brand. So I know they're not going to want to tarnish that, and I feel like a lot of people went into this decision making, but it is going to be such a pivot from what we know them for.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of things that go into this, and I have a lot of thoughts to kind of share. Initially, and I think an article came out maybe 6 or 9 months ago about a venture capitalist company that paid, gosh, I can't remember. I think it was like $200 million for less than 10% of a stake in A24 or something to that
Oh
effect,
wow,
which in turn valued A24 at like $2 billion.
2 billion, yeah,
Yeah, $2.5 billion or something like that. So I think part of this article states that this decision for A24 as a brand comes with the heat and the pressure of that valuation to kind of keep the money flowing.
yeah,
And so we've just recently seen this with Letterboxd as well. They kind of got acquired by like a venture capitalist company. We haven't seen any changes yet, but the outlook is not great, to be honest, with when these things happen. They always inevitably change like the core of whatever business they get involved with. When it comes to the franchise thing, it's important to note, and we were talking about it over the last couple of weeks, A24 was in the bidding for the Halloween TV rights for the franchise, right? And thinking about making a television show or whatever it may be, because they're doing that with Friday the 13th. I think they already have something kind
yeah,
of on the slate for that. Just today, news was released from Deadline that A24 lost out on the bidding rights to the Halloween franchise against Miramax. So that's a pretty big blow for that news to be released. At the same time, news is released about A24 pivoting to IP. I think that's a really tough brand kind of outlook initially. My thoughts are that we're kind of already seeing this with A24 a little bit when it comes to Ty West and his pseudo franchise, right, within the
yeah,
brand. And we're kind of already getting like auteur franchises like Ari Aster and Robert Eggers. Like these are the guys that A24 has raised. Like they gave them the money to make these movies. And I know they're not actually part of like a cinematic universe or an IP or a franchise, but they keep coming. A24 can keep pulling from that well of like, okay, we know this guy can make a movie. We know this person knows how to play with our brand in the right way, right?
yeah,
And so it's really interesting to me that we're getting Maxine, I think next year.
yeah,
And that would really be like the third in a trilogy, really the first like coherent trilogy that this brand has owned or been a part of. As far as I know, they have been successful films, all of them. They haven't cost a lot of money, and they've done pretty well at the box office, and obviously have deemed sequels. So I think it does shed a lot of light on the fact, like I said, that not everything makes a lot of money at the box office, regardless of what people really think. Beau is Afraid lost a ton of money, which I feel like we kind of knew was going to happen. I feel like A24 knew it was a risk. Do you think they actually were trying to like make that pay out? Or I guess the message that I was kind of under the impression was of like, they're just doing it for the brand. They're just doing it as it is literally a $30 million brand play, right? And I didn't expect them to make money, but maybe they did.
I'm don't know. I'm curious. I kind of lean on the side that they thought they were going to get the money back because they're giving it to a director who's coming off of Hereditary, Midsommar, and
Mm-hmm.
those both made money. And this is an actor's first performance since winning his Best Actor Oscar
Yeah.
for Joker, right? So I think there was logic behind them signing up for that. and being like, okay, we'll probably get our money back with these two components mixed in here. Plus Parker Posey, that's worth $5 million right there. So,
of course.
but then obviously, yeah, it just didn't turn out that way for a myriad of reasons. People like myself thought we were getting the next horror thing, and then we didn't. And the runtime, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So I feel
the
like
massive penis at the end of it in the basement. I mean, that's pretty crucial information that people should know.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah, was it a brand play, or did they actually think they're going to get their money back? I could see both sides of it, but I mean, the parts were there to have some success, but again, sometimes you think you're gonna get all your money back with or sometimes it's just like, again, Paranormal Activity, or it's like, let's just throw a couple $100,000 at this, and then you make $200 million, or you make The Flash. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to know like what's going to return money. So I don't know. It's curious to be in the boardroom as that all happens. Which also, just quickly, I just want to say it's kind of funny to talk about these valuations, because I don't know about you, but me, I only know all this shit because of Shark Tank. Like, okay, cool. They're asking for 10%. You multiply that by 10. Like, that's what they value their company at. And I'm just trying to picture Ari Aster like, hey, Sharks, I have a movie I want to pitch to you. Like, the daughter gets decapitated, the wife sets her husband on fire, and then she crawls on the wall chasing her son. Like, I would love for you to invest in this movie. Like, there's just so many pitches that I'm sure are just completely absurd. But getting Joaquin in your movie isn't too crazy of a draw, I think. So I don't know. Curious.
It's interesting. I want to rattle off some information that I think is important to know, like kind of in context to this, about like what they've made at the box office so far this year. Speaking of X and Pearl, I just looked it up. So X had a budget of $1 million, and these budgets are sans marketing budgets. So we don't know if they spent another $1 million on marketing or what the case may be. But it had a budget of $1 million. It returned 15.1 at the box office.
Yeah.
Pearl, similarly shot at the same time, had a budget of also $1 million, returned $10 million at the box office. So pretty good returns on those movies. And I'll circle back to this question after I'm done kind of listing these. Horror and A24, they have always been two peas in a pod. And I'm wondering if A24 as a production company has maybe spread their wings a little bit too far and got a little outside of their grasp, and maybe need to come back to that core of like, we know how to make a good horror movie. We know how to buy a good horror movie. We know how to find them. We know how to market them. We know that A24 is synonymous with horror, and we can make money at the box office. And I'm wondering if we kind of go back home to that ideal. So here's what they've done so far this year at the box office. I'm going to go through each movie really fast. When You Finish Saving the World, this is a movie out of Sundance in 2022, did just under $200K at the box office. Didn't really go to many theaters. Close, which was nominated for Best International Feature Film at the 2023 Oscars, just over $5 million at the box office. Sharper, a movie with Julianne Moore, Sebastian Stan, John Lithgow, honestly a really stacked cast, straight to Apple TV+. No box office dollars there. Pi got a re-release, the Darren Aronofsky film, $3.2 million. Showing Up, a Kelly Reichardt film, again, like a very A24 situation of we foster Kelly Reichardt, make whatever you want to make. $1.2 million at the box office. Beau's Afraid, $35 million budget without marketing. Probably their most expensive movie they've ever made. I would guess so. Does 11.5 at the box office, 11.5 million. Pretty abysmal, to be quite honest. You Hurt My Feelings, a Nicole Holofcener film. Another kind of pseudo Kelly Reichardt situation. We get this really smart person that's been making movies for a while that knows how to tell really emotional stories, but only draws $5.7 million box office. Past Lives. I thought this was really interesting to me. $12 million budget. A directorial debut, which A24 fosters, and they're very good at, and we all know that. $16 million at the box office. Not overly successful, which is kind of contrary to like the way people talk about that film. They're like, it's one of the best of the year. Like, this is going to win, and it's going to get these awards and all these things. And I'm sure A24 is happy with the word of mouth success. But when it comes to the box office, it is lacking a little bit. Earth Mama, a movie we've covered here, did not go to box office. I think it went kind of straight to VOD. I didn't see any money that one made. The Deepest Breath, right to Netflix, documentary, no box office dollars. Stephen Curry, underrated, right to Apple TV Plus, $0 at the box office. Talk to Me, again with this horror stamp. Out of Sundance 2023, $4.5 million budget, makes $88.6 million at the box office. An unsubstantiated success when it comes to the A24 brand. Probably the best horror movie of the year so far, and I don't know if it'll be beat. Medusa Deluxe, another straight streaming, $0 box office dollars there. Stop Making Sense, the 4K re-release. Something really special, something a lot of people latched onto is a very core cultural moment. A $1.2 million budget. I don't know if that's for marketing, for the restoration, what that might be, but it made $9 million at the box office. That's pretty solid for a re-release. Obviously, Dix the Musical is coming out on October 20th. We've got Priscilla, All Dirt Road's Taste of Salt, Dream Scenario, The Zone of Interest, and The Iron Claw. Those are kind of like the unreleased A24 films that we know of so far. So 2023 at the box office, not stellar for A24. Let's just be quite honest. Aside from Talk to Me, not very good. Do you think, circling back, is A24, do they need to stick with horror? Should they have bid more money for Halloween? Should they have put their cap and put their foot down and said, we need horror in our IP and franchise future because that is what we are good at?
I don't know. I mean, it might not be a horrible idea because it is something that everyone knows A24 for, is their horror stuff. So, maybe you invest in that. But we talked about some movies on here that like directorial debuts is another thing where it's like maybe Past Lives. Like I'm very curious where that $12 million went. Like, I mean, I love that movie. It's a beautiful movie, but like $12 million, that's, if it's just all the travel, back and forth, I have no idea. But maybe I feel like they kind of have, but maybe they adopt that Blumhouse thing where it's like, we'll give you $5 million and you can do whatever you want, like that. And then like something's going to hit eventually. But yeah, like a Jesse Eisenberg directorial debut, not even pulling in $1 million is kind of crazy. Not that he's like a huge draw, but like
still pretty crazy, to be honest.
It's still kind of nuts, right? Yeah. That like, and maybe some of the stuff is like the marketing that needs to get better.
This was my next question to you, and I think we talk about this all the time on this show. The rollouts, the marketing, and the release technique of these films is pretty incoherent, even for us.
Yeah.
And we live and breathe A24 films. This is what we do every single week. We don't even know. I don't even know when you're going to get to see Dix the Musical. You don't even know.
No, and there
it might not even come out on the nationwide date. So is A24 doing something wrong? Are they doing something that worked for Everything Everywhere All at Once, where they rolled it out across the country over 6 weeks and built word of mouth and won Best Picture and broke records at the Academy Awards? That worked for that. Does it still work now? Or is that something they need to move on from? Because obviously they're hindering at the box office largely.
I'm curious how they choose these things, because I feel like with two movies that we've covered on here, Earth Mama and Medusa Deluxe, you and I both were just like, wait, what is this? Like, we had no idea that was coming at all. And then suddenly it's like dropping this week. Like, hold on. Like, I've not heard anything about this. And now this is a movie that we need to cover. And I'm curious who makes those decisions about what movies get that kind of a rollout. Obviously, Beau's Afraid got a lot of marketing. Like, there was a ton there. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised You Hurt My Feelings even pulled in $6 million, 6 billion. Can you imagine?
The first $6 billion movie ever. Nicole Holofcener, you've done it.
Dreyfus is like just pulling in that bank. But still $6 million is quite a bit, I think, for that movie. Yeah. I'm kind of surprised. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hit or miss here. I think Talk to Me, at least half of that success is due to Raka Reka and their YouTube. Like they were established people before this came out. Like, it's a debut, but it's a debut from a movie that they know who directed this. And so like, that's where the audience is coming from. If this wasn't, if they didn't have that following, what kind of numbers is Talk to Me doing? I don't know,
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think A24 has built themselves a really substantial core group of of fans, of people that love the brand for the brand. They're very good at marketing things when they want to be. They're very good at creating merchandise when they want to be. And that's something that I think I'm sure that they pride themselves on. Obviously, and you kind of mentioned at the top, this goes along with a big spinning wheel conversation that never really stops. Of theaters are really only going to survive through IP and franchises.
Yeah.
And then you get the "you hurt my feelings." Then you get the past lives to kind of plug the gaps here and there when you need to be. Obviously, Scorsese is talking about this kind of on the trail for Killers of the Flower Moon right now, and how this creates such a big riff in like the cinematic culture and what we should be pouring into. And I think A24 is obviously caught at the crux of this big problem of how they have established themselves, and I don't think they would have established themselves to be at this point without doing what they've been doing, right? Without doing the auteur route, without doing the crazy fucked up twist route, and establishing themselves as the brand that they are. But it is kind of an unfortunate and really harsh truth of the state of the box office, the state of movies, the state of movie culture, that a brand like this cannot survive on horror alone. They cannot survive on small auteur directorial debuts alone. So yeah, I'm really curious what they're going to do for an IP, for a franchise. Halloween is out of the books right now, as far as we know, as far as is being reported. What do you think that A24 can do for an IP or for a franchise? Do you think they can build ground up, or do you think they have to adopt something and revamp and rehash? What do you think is a smart move for A24 in this situation?
I'm curious. I mean, there's a lot of comic book fatigue, whatever, out there, which I totally understand, but that's kind of the first thing I thought about when it comes to franchises and action. It's like, do you take a smaller comic book and try to adapt it? Do you take something like Spawn, who's not falling under DC or Marvel, and you can make good dark horror movies? You guys have done that. Do you put that, or do Sandman, something like that? I'd be kind of curious to see what they did there. But I also know, I don't know exactly what it's called, but I know Keanu Reeves like recently he did a comic book. It's like, capitalize on some of this John Wick fame and bring him in and be like, cool, we'll give you, we gave Ari Aster 30 million, like we'll give you 20. And then, you hope that the Keanu Reeves like brings in that draw.
Do you think that is what they should do? Should they establish a star? Should they establish a face of the future of A24 in this situation that you're saying? Because that sounds really enticing. If they can find the right person, the right star power, the right person that cares about the brand and what the brand stands for, just very similar to the fact of what Ari Aster preaches, of what the Daniels kind of preach on the road as they talk about A24 and claim how how great of a brand that they are. If they can find a famous person to do that, do you think that maybe is the route?
I think that could be. You know what? Throw the bag at Scorsese. Let's get Marty in here.
Get him in.
Let's get him making his first comic book movie at A24. That's what I want. Let's bring the face of cinema, the greatest living director of our entire lives. Let's get him in there.
Wow.
No, I mean, for real. Yeah, we need something. Talk to Me 2 is going to probably be the first like franchise thing. Talk to Me. Since they announced this, like you said, obviously we got the Maxine and that kind of like trilogy going. But this will, be the next kind of like franchise thing. It's the kind of storytelling that like there's no reason you can't make 6 of these. We talked about this with Jamie, where it's just like, if the hand's the central figure here, then like we can go back in time, we can go forward in time. It can be anything that we want it to be. Yeah. And maybe that's the first kind of like IP that they build within the company, is something like that. I'm curious to see how they handle action, because that's just not something we've really seen in any of their movies. So what are they going to do here? Is it going to be more like The Raid, where it's a very well crafted and choreographed kind of action, or is it just going to be The Expendables? Like there's different kinds out there. So what are they going to go for? I'm kind of curious.
it is interesting that they specifically call out action. I think that's really, really fascinating. I don't know if you can sell a good new action film without a movie star. I think that's that is the movie star problem. And so I think A24 is best suited to build a horror franchise from the ground up, like they're doing with Talk to Me, like they're doing with Ty West and his films. I think the one big red flag that makes me incredibly nervous throughout this entire thing, that will inevitably pull A24 from their current way of working, is if they find themselves in the action realm and the comic book realm. Those VFX dollars and those VFX scenes are going to, in my opinion, very quickly degrade the quality of what A24 is known for. Talk to Me has VFX. It's incredibly practical. Hereditary has VFX. It looks incredibly practical. They know how to deploy when it's needed, and I think that's something special to this production company, is that they don't over rely on what VFX can create for them. So that makes me really nervous when it comes to the the action genre that they so specifically call out. So I think they have a really tall task ahead of them when it comes to kind of re-navigating where they want to go as a brand, what they're doing with IP, franchise, what they're going to hang their hat on. I think horror is the way to go. Make it original, make franchises, make horror IPs, even potentially start something up like Talk to Me that you buy out of Sundance. You in-house produce number 2. You sell off the rights for number 3. You turn and burn. You make that money and you allow that franchise to kind of be like, highly likely like, oh, the first 2 were bangers because they were made by A24 and then they got sold off to whatever and they kind of took a dive. The other 7 movies or whatever we end up seeing. But I think that's good business sense for sure. My very last question to you is, throughout these movies that we have releasing so far at the remainder of the year, so Dix the Musical, Priscilla, All Dirt Road, Taste of Salt, Dream Scenario, The Zone of Interest, and The Iron Claw, out of those options, what do you think is going to make the most box office money and not be a financial failure for A24?
My gut leads me towards Priscilla. We're coming off of the year of Elvis with, all of its Oscar nominations and all that kind of stuff. So it's got a little bit of that. We got Jacob Elordi playing Elvis, Euphoria. So the A24 hive can stay there.
Yeah.
And then, Sofia Coppola, who also, been with A24, Bling Ring. She's a wonderful director, with Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation. On the Rocks, I think, was also an A24 project for her. So I think she has an established fan base, which will show out for her. We're coming off the year of Elvis. Priscilla, I think, is going to be a really interesting story. There's been a lot of hype, because, the lead actress won out of Venice, right? I believe, like the best
Kaylee
actress.
Spaney,
Yeah. So that's my guess for what is going to be the most financially successful out of what we have left in 2023.
I'm gonna zag on you, and I'm gonna go with Dream Scenario, because the Nick Cage hive rises, and they rise high. They rise tall, and they rise fast, and they love Nick Cage. So I think in this situation, it played really well at Beyond Fest, from what I heard. It's playing really well at New York Film Festival. Audiences are enjoying it. I don't think it's anything that's like groundbreaking or anything really that's going to change genre filmmaking or anything like that. But I think that could garner a really close-knit cult following very fast. Kind of like what I mentioned with Dix the Musical. I think it's going to find a cult following that's really going to love it, and they're going to go see it 4 times in the theater. And I could see Dream Scenario kind of having that play out. Will it make over $10 million? Probably not. Like, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
And still, as far as I'm aware, we don't have like a hard, like, nationwide Dream Scenario comes out on this day. Like, we still don't know, and it comes out sometime in the next like 5 or 6 weeks. So yeah, it's tough. Like, it's a really, really tough thing, because The Zone of Interest is going to be a huge Academy play. You're talking Jonathan Glazer, Under the Skin, also with A24.
Yeah.
Doing something that's incredibly important and incredibly stylistic and visually haunting. Not a movie that people are going to want to shell out $16 or $18 to go see again and again. So that's tough, even if it does get that Oscars buzz. That's like, it is not Everything Everywhere All at Once, where you can go see that 4 times and enjoy it every single time. So yeah, I think A24 is really in a pickle, and they've really got a tough battle ahead of them. We'll definitely be talking about this more often. I think having these candid conversations are really helpful, and they're really important to be honest about like what A24 is doing and what their future might look like, and instead of just kind of joining the A24 hive and being like, A24 rules, man. Yeah, they make cool stuff, obviously, but they also have their issues that are going to become more and more prevalent as time goes on. So yeah, any closing thoughts on anything that we talked about here in our conversation, Ben?
Just Justice for Purple Rain.
Fuck That's you! I knew I left the door open.
That's all I got.
You left me with bated breath, and I literally was telling myself in my mind, "Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it."
He's gonna do it.
You did it. You did it.
See what
all
happens.
Right.
The new one is after Scorsese. We'll see.
We'll see how that goes. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, that was really fun. A24 housekeeping. The episode's going to pivot. You're getting out of here. John is joining me for a conversation about Dix the Musical. Like I said, one of the funniest, most unsettling films I have ever seen in my entire life. So stick around for that conversation. The movie is out on October 20th, but I think you should listen to the conversation now and prepare yourself for Dix. And we have some very helpful viewing suggestions that might enhance your time at the movie theater, and that could be really beneficial. So Ben, wonderful conversation, but now I'm going to talk to John about Dix the Musical. Joining me to talk about Dix the Musical, I'm sorry, every time that I say Dix the Musical, I just want to like stop and pause after I say Dix. It's just like so hilarious to me, is John from Life's But a Song podcast. How's it going, John? Welcome to the pod.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Unfortunately, Ben isn't here. He's my connection. It's going well. This movie, I can't. This movie is so good.
It's so good. You're right. So Ben is not here with us. John, you are filling the spot for Ben this week. Unfortunately, Ben doesn't know when he's going to see this movie. So Ben lives in Salt Lake City. They haven't gotten any early screenings or anything quite yet. John, you're in New York? Is that correct? That's how you've seen this?
I am in New York, yes.
Okay.
It's playing, I think, exclusively at AMC's here.
Okay. Good to know.
Which is interesting, because then there's some art house film like theaters that are not playing it. So
yeah, super interesting rollout, as per usual from A24. So I'm in Portland, lucky enough to have seen a screening actually last night, which is a couple weeks before it goes nationwide. So Dix the Musical is going to go nationwide on October 20th. So if you're listening to this podcast before then, I have two warnings for you. Number one, stop. I don't want to spoil anything for you, and we are definitely, as per usual with this show, getting into spoilers. We are going to be talking about the madness that is the final 15 minutes of this movie that I just couldn't see coming, even if I tried my hardest to guess what was going to happen. And the second warning is a language warning. So if you've seen this movie, you know there are certain words that may be triggering to some people that are generally not used in discourse on a regular basis. So of course we will be, swearing like we normally do on the show, but there might be some words thrown in there that are a little more uncomfortable than usual. They do appear in Dix the Musical, so if you've seen the movie, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, go check out this movie on October 20th, come back and listen to the show. Then, John, let's start big picture here. You said you loved Dix the Musical. Give me some more, give me your thoughts. What did you think of the movie?
Okay, so I saw it with some friends. Did you see it with friends, or did you see it by yourself?
I saw it by myself, so this will be interesting.
Okay, so I saw it with some friends, and afterwards, I looked at them and I was just like, what the fuck did you just watch?
Right.
Because, because and I've been telling people that I've been at work talking about it. There's some people at work who have seen it, some who haven't. I'm just like, from the get, they welcome you into this wacky world you're
Yes.
getting into. And like, if you watch the trailers, you kind of get an understanding as to what's going to happen.
Mhm.
But like,
But
fuck,
not really.
man.
I agree. So I saw it by myself. And so I went to this like kind of a little early screening. The only way that people knew about this was through some like weird random website. It was shown at a very small art house theater. And there really only ended up being like 25 people there. Like there wasn't really that many people. So it was kind of a weird dynamic to like go see this very obtuse, crude, in your face movie musical with like not a full house, like not other people's energy around you, right? So like I was kind of left to my own devices of like whether some jokes landed or not, or what I thought was personally funny or not. I have one interesting thing to share is that when the movie wrapped, there was a group of 4 people that kind of walked out of the theater before me, and the guy that was like kind of hosting this screening that partners with A24 and what have you, thanked them for coming and asked them what they thought of the film. And they just immediately, they were just like, nope, that wasn't for us. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but thanks for coming. And I was like, wow, okay, so this landed differently for different people. And I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I don't know the last time that I've laughed this hard in a movie theater. Do you recall?
Oh my God. I don't remember the last time I laughed. So it was, I think I peed a little when I
Just
watched it. And then okay, so we gave the spoiler alert.
Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. So when Megan Mullally flings her flying vagina out at the screen,
oh boy,
I was just like,
I was like, yeah,
because that's a running gag throughout the whole thing, that her vagina fell off and then it grew eyes. Then all of a sudden it flies and it talks and it turns into a face hugger from Alien, and you're like,
what's going on? Yeah.
And I saw it sober, so
okay, yeah,
I'm gonna go back and not be sober when I watch it.
That is actually one of the first thoughts that I had. So I had one beer. I got a free beer, which was actually really cool. And
not enough.
No, right. So it wasn't quite enough, but it was just enough to be like, oh, cool. This is probably funnier than I would have thought it was if like I just got off of a stressful day at work and like ran to go catch this movie. But I immediately proceeded to call my wife once I got in the car, and I was like, hey, just finished the movie. Like, I'm coming home. She wanted to know how it was. And I was like, I loved it. But my first thought is like, I'd love to be pretty drunk or high, like going to see this movie. I think it quite literally might be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, if that were the case.
I mean, if people are now this far in and have seen the movie, I'm going to recommend you watch it sober once.
Yeah, good recommendation.
Just so you can
take it in.
Take it everything and make this your clip for Instagram or whatever. Be like, see it sober once. The first time, preferably, because then you know what you're in store for. You know how much or whatever your vice of choice is to do when you go see it again.
Right.
Because we're going to give this movie all the money. Like, these 2 guys need all the money.
Incredible. Yeah, just incredible that they were even able to make a movie like this, quite frankly. So 86 minutes long, directed by Larry Charles, who also directed Borat, which I think is just an incredible like little flex for this movie to be like, from the director of Borat. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. This guy also helped produce Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld, which I thought was pretty sweet. And it's kind of being billed as like a Parent Trap meets like something ? Like, I don't quite know.
The adult and absurd Parent Trap. Yes. I feel like that's what it would be, because these 2 guys who look nothing alike,
not even close,
are twins, and like that's the gag. And then they wear gross wigs that is also another joke. Like, this movie, although it's absurd and over the top, there's a lot of like quick lines.
Mhm.
Like, uh, like both Megan Mullally and Nathan Lane have like, I don't remember you. Your hair looks so like a shitty wig or something like
Yeah.
that. Like whatever the line is, and like that's a funny line outside of this.
Yeah.
And then like I said, you have the flying vagina that's a face hugger, or the sewer boys, which reminds me, I have to feed mine later. Thank you for
Oh,
reminding me.
smart call. Don't let them get out.
No, no. Did you notice the little ankle bracelets? The little like
Yes. Like the house monitors, like the house arrest on the sewer boys.
A friend of mine saw the movie, and there was a talk back with
Oh.
the writers whose names I'm forgetting and Nathan Lane.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
one of the points that he told me about that I'm now going to tell your audience
Perfect.
is the reason why the Sewer Boys are in diapers is because they did have dicks and they thought it was gross, so they covered it up.
I could see that being the case.
And apparently those puppets were like a lot of the budget. Like a lot
Sure.
of money went to them. And my response to when he told me that was like, they blink. So yes,
Yeah.
a lot of the money went there.
So interesting. Like this movie definitely has that very campy vibe. Like it's kind of like I mean, Nathan Lane's in it, right? So a lot of people are comparing it to like the producers or something along those lines of like it's set on sound stages essentially, and like
I
very
think it's just one soundstage.
that's incredible.
And it's all connected. And like so my best friend who I went with ran into other friends that she has, and we were talking afterwards, and one of them was like, if he saw it 3 times and I saw it on Monday.
Wow.
So yeah. And he was like, if you notice that like in the backgrounds of certain shots, specifically when they go into their apartment buildings,
Uh-huh.
if you look in the backgrounds, like at the whatever's covering, it's like don't look behind here, moving company or something like that.
Oh,
So
interesting.
so like and like what was the X24 everything
Yes.
everything everyone comes at once or something like that.
Yes.
Like there's shit everywhere,
Yeah.
and like you have to like it's all in the details.
Mhm. I think that really does work for the movie. Of course, so yeah, it's X24 presents Everyone Everywhere Comes at Once, which
Yes.
my audience just immensely cackled at. That was
Oh,
just a huge win of a joke.
and the thing is, though, like you see these two guys walking out of the theater, one's holding a popcorn and another
Yes.
one's holding the soda, and you're like, "What the fuck
Interesting,
is
yeah.
going on?" And then you're like, "Oh,
Oh, I
of
get it.
course, these two heterosexual." And I gotta say, the two gay actors are very brave.
Yes.
Like heterosexuals,
Incredibly brave.
so brave.
The bravest people I know. Yeah, I think this movie works on a lot of fronts. I really did enjoy it. It's definitely, in my opinion, like the funniest movie that A24 has ever put out. Of course, it's their very first musical, so I think that's really exciting from that perspective. Ben and I talk on the show all the time about like what's next for A24, right? Like when are they going to venture into IP, or when are they going to venture into a musical, for example, or anime, or something that's different for them as a company. And I think this is a really good first step. So I'm incredibly curious to see how it does at the box office, because it is.
I will go every day if I can.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there are a lot of people that are going to do that. Like, I think it's going to very immediately have a very hearty cult following behind it. And there's going to be a very clear marker of like people who love this movie or people that can't stand this movie. And I think that's a big benefit to the film itself.
Well, so Ethan, I have a question for you now.
Yeah.
How versed are you in musical theater?
Not versed, pretty much. I mean, I like musicals as movies, like La La Land or Grease or Singing in the Rain, of course. But musical theater, I've never seen one. That's
so
not my world.
Did you understand though? A lot of the lead in to the songs was like a parody of musical theater in a way.
Yeah. It's very easy to pick up on that vibe.
Where you say your line and then you look off into the distance while the intro of the song is happening.
Or we fade away. Yes.
Yeah. And like that, I think at least here in New York with like the theater community here will find a lot of that humor in it. And there's a lot of theater humor in it. But like I think for people like you who are a cinephile, like you can appreciate all of it and like the bizarre. I'm curious to see if there's a full video of them at UCB doing this, because you see it at the end of the movie.
You do, yeah.
And I believe they only play the parents in the UCB skit.
It looked like at least from what we see in the credits, right? It's like just the mom and the dad for like 10 seconds or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really cool. And pro tip, I guess, if you haven't seen the movie yet, like stick around in the credits. They make it pretty obvious that they're playing outtakes as it goes. And I think definitely one of the funnier outtakes is the fact that at one point they're laying in bed and I think one of them laughs and he's like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "I can't believe we're making this movie," which I think is a total encapsulation of the energy of the film. They're just like, "I can't fucking believe we're doing this," and like they just do it.
And then there are moments throughout the movie so Nathan Lane and Megan Mullally are pretty big names. Like you have Nathan Lane, who's done a lot. Megan Mullally, who's known very well for playing Karen Walker on Will and Grace. And by the way, she looks the same.
Yes,
like it's been
insane
20 something years, and she looks the same. But like the two of them are pretty established actors that a lot of people know their names. And throughout the movie, I was like, they have to be just questioning everything.
Decision.
Especially when Nathan Lane spits the chewed ham at the Sewer Boys.
Oh boy. I was hoping we'd get here. I know we're going to get into true cinema in a second, and that's how we're going to walk through this movie, and we'll kind of go scene by scene. But look, I'll share my hand early here. That scene in particular, when he spits the ham, he pulls a bag of ham out of the ass of the statue in his apartment to start, which is incredible. And you get
that happens.
Yes, you get the pop sound effect, and then he proceeds to spit this ham in his face and or in the face of the Sewer Boys. And at the same time, one of the sons is there, and he is just vehemently shouting no at the top of his lungs. That is literally the scene where I started like crying from laughter, and I thought to myself, I don't think I've ever seen anything this funny in my life, and I don't even know how they came up with that.
They probably did all the drugs, and I mean
that's fair.
There's a movie that I've talked about on my podcast a lot, and I tell people, like, I recommend people to watch, where it's an 80s movie, and I bill it as like it's made by cocaine. Like everyone is doing snow angels in their own mountain of cocaine. And so I feel like this one, there has to be drugs. There has to be. Honestly, there has to be.
Yeah, there's no way you create it without. I have one more question for you before we do true cinema, and we'll start kind of talking about the scenes and going through it a little more detail. You mentioned Nathan Lane, Megan Mullally. We get Bowen Yang plays God, which just every single second of screen time from Bowen Yang, I think is quite funny.
He's a star.
Yes.
Like I was literally saying this to coworkers right before coming on the call, being like, he needs to be a movie star.
Yes.
I mean, I know he's a star already with a lot of people, but like blow his name up. We need him. He needs his own series. He needs his own, movies. He needs everything.
I love that. Yeah, I would love that for him. I wanted your take on Megan Thee Stallion. So Megan Thee Stallion plays essentially Trevor and Craig's boss at their Vroomba company. They don't sell the actual Vroomba. They just sell the parts, the little brushes and the little metal pieces and all of those things, which I think is an incredible like ongoing gag of the movie. She has a song in this, like a song and dance number that, just to be quite frank, like just aroused a lot of things in me from a lot of different perspectives, and I thought it was
in the
incredible.
trailer too.
Yeah,
her song, like the moment, so the in the trailer, the moment when she's walking them is
Yes,
in,
with the
and I was
leashes.
like, oh, first of all, Megan Thee Stallion is the last person I would expect to be an actress or
Mm-hmm.
actor or
Mm-hmm.
something. And I'm gonna just say that. Eh. Um,
Respect.
she went full ham,
Yep.
no pun, but kind of pun intended, on this. And like she has her nails out to here, which are just like
Unbelievable.
Wolverine claws,
Mm-hmm.
like, and honest, did you, I stayed until the end of the credits because that's what we like to do,
Of
and
course.
you wait for the post credit scene usually because you never know, especially this day and age. And honestly, her song, I thought she wrote it
Mm.
because I feel like writing rap is a little difficult,
Yeah, I can
and
imagine. Yeah.
like it just felt so natural for her. And I'm not a Megan Thee Stallion like
Yeah. Same.
person, I mean, she's great. I give her credit for doing it because spitting lyrics is difficult. Uh, but I honestly thought she wrote the song, and it turns out she didn't.
Wow.
They wrote it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is wild stuff to me. I think it's really cool that they were just able to like lock down three very recognizable people from incredibly different realms of
Yes.
pop culture for this movie, which I think is really impressive.
Well, four technically, if you want to include Bowen.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, sorry, four with Bowen, which again, like, is a kind of another like little quadrant of pop culture. So I feel like there's a little bit for everybody here. Let's go through True Cinema. We'll start kind of talking through this movie, what we remember, and some thoughts. So the intro song, this is kind of billed as like they're two heterosexual men with very big dicks,
Very straight men,
very straight. Couldn't be straighter. They essentially
let's talk about that.
They essentially just they go to work and they're the top salesman, and they go home and they fuck, and then they do it all again the next day.
Fuck all the women, and they have big dicks.
Of course. And I thought this was a really like a very tonally smart kind of peak to start the movie on, because it gives us a very good jumping off point to this kind of like, oh, we discover we're twins, and we eventually discover we are heterosexual, and we eventually discover we're in love with each other. Which is kind of a descent into hell, into madness.
You said,
oh, sorry, did I say heterosexual?
You mean homosexual? Yeah,
yes, homosexual.
They discover they're very, very gay.
Yes,
and they're in love with each other. Which, I mean, it's kind of great that they don't look like one another, because if the two actors did look like brothers, like they were like actual identical twins or something like that, it would have been 10 times creepier at the end.
I agree. Yeah, and it's obviously already pushing a lot of boundaries, I think. In a very interesting, smart, and funny way. So yeah, the intro song, and then we get the twin song in the office. This is kind of where we're on this next soundstage, and they're battling over who is the top salesman, really, which I thought, again, like, really funny. Yeah.
Not the where they're like, I sold 10,000 more units of brush. I thought you meant like that might be the next, that might be like a later song, the one that nobody understands who I am.
Yeah, and I think that's the next song, which I think actually brings up a very interesting point. We're very loaded with music. Like, there is very few scenes in between the musical numbers that are like actual exposition or actual, like, okay, we're taking a 15-minute break from musicals. Like, we get hammered with 3 or 4 songs in the first 20 minutes, which I really liked.
Yes. I mean, there was, because I believe it was like, it's been a couple of days, everyone. I'm so sorry. I forgot. I believe it was like when they hatched their plan, to jump ahead a little bit, when they realized they're twins and they hatched their plan to get their parents back together, and they're going to visit. This is the Parent Trap moment. They're going to visit the other parent and
try to convince them.
Megan Mullally had a song first, and then we went into Nathan Lane's scene.
That's correct.
And then he did it. Yeah. So that was very interesting too, because you had a scene break up a song in a way, and it turned into a duet, and like for two guys that are unknowns,
Mhm.
like I've never heard of these people before.
No.
Like the harmonies that they wrote for themselves, and like the fact that like they had two melody lines going at the same time, like they were doing very intricate stuff.
Yeah.
They swung for the fences with this movie.
Yeah.
And you
Absolutely.
have to I just have to applaud them. Like they did a great job.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think they did a very, very good job, like for two unknowns essentially, to kind of run this movie. I will give credit. You mentioned Megan Mullally's song in there, so I think it took me a long time, and I'm still a little on the fence, honestly, about like her character and her like choice to have a lisp as that character.
I don't care. I
I
honestly didn't care.
Oh,
Honestly,
I love that for you.
whatever. When she's talks about her vagina falling off and
Sure.
everything, and that becomes the running gag, I'm just like, yes, I
Yeah.
believe everything you're saying to me right now.
I love that for you. I think that's like that is the hard selling point for me of the movie. And I like her. I'm not like against her or anything. I just think that was like the hardest connection point I had with the film. But I will say during her moment and her scene, she rattles off just an elite joke about watching a movie from the Criterion Collection. And I was the only person in the theater that laughed, but I laughed really fucking hard because I
With
thought
Patricia?
I thought that was so funny. Patricia, what was it? Her vase of flowers or whatever.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot what the movie was that she talked about watching.
Yeah, I can't remember the movie in particular.
This needs to come to streaming because I will buy it
We
and
need
I
to.
will watch it all the time.
I agree.
Like um for another A24 movie that I listened to your episode in preparation for this.
Oh wow, thanks.
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
That movie, life changing. Once it went to Prime, I bought it. I didn't care that it was like 20 something dollars. I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna watch it. I don't care if it's going to any other streaming for
Mhm.
free. I'm buying this because I want to watch it all the time. And I have that same feeling with Dix, the musical.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really interesting point in the fact that this to me, and I know we're recording, it's not even released nationwide yet, which I think is really fascinating.
Take my money. I don't care.
Yeah,
Take it right now.
A24 obviously has really interesting release strategies with everything they do. This to me seems like the kind of movie that might get on that like really quick to streaming treadmill that's like spinning faster and faster every day in this world of movies, where it's like, oh cool, it went nationwide on October 20th and on November 21st it's going to be on streaming, and it's like, oh shit, cool.
I feel like we have Miss Rona to thank for that one.
Yes, of course.
Because when the pandemic hit, obviously uptick in streaming services because nobody was going to movies. So like now people are still a little trepidatious about going to movies, or they got used to watching everything, renting for like $5 a movie at home.
Yeah. And since this is a musical, I feel like A24 has a little bit of marketing room to play there and say like, oh, right, like people might be listening to the album, or they might be listening to the Megan Thee Stallion song, or like they might want to rewatch this for one scene of Nathan Lane spitting ham in the Sewer Boys' faces. Like people might want to revisit this for very explicit things, and I think if they bring it to Prime for $25, 4 weeks or 5 weeks after, I'm just
I don't
like,
care.
yeah, I'll buy it.
Take it.
Yeah,
Take
like,
my money.
Take all my money. I would love to own this, and I'd love to have it, and I'd love to experience it in the safe confines of a a substance friendly house. Okay, next on the list is Harris. This is Nathan Lane's character feeding the Sewer Boys. This is where we get the introduction to the Sewer Boys. Again, I already said it. Just incredible moment in this movie that really made the film click for me, where I was just like, wow, I'm actually really invested in this film, and I think it's going very well. And I want a shirt with the Sewer Boys on it. A24, put it out.
Oh my God, yes.
I need them on apparel. I need them somehow
on a mug, on tote bags. Like when they did the hot dog fingers, make the Sewer Boy plush toy or something.
Oh my God. Let's get it. I would buy
I
that.
don't know that I know that it's Backpack and what's the other one's name?
Whispers.
Whispers. I don't know which one's which. I know
No.
that they just have different colored eyes and that's it. But
Yeah.
like, we'll do it.
Yeah.
This is the scene that I was just like, Nathan Lane is just questioning everything.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know if you've talked to a lot of actors, but there comes a time I feel like in everyone's career where you're just like, did I really just say yes to this?
Mm-hmm.
I did. Okay. And like at least we saw that in the post credit blooper trail thing where he's like, what, you want me to do what now?
Yeah. What am I doing?
More?
Yeah. I think it was great. I think he was honestly great for this role. Next on the list, I put the there's a song, and basically the chorus is no means yes. And I think that it is actually a really smart song for this movie to play with this like really perverted subtext of society, and obviously kind of women and their rights is like a big kind of thing about this movie that they play with and make fun of, along with like two men finding out that they are homosexual. And this came across as like the biggest production to me, which I thought was really fun.
Can you? I'm sorry, I'm blacking some things, some details out. When does this happen?
So this is kind of when they find themselves on a park bench, and they basically like they stand up, they twirl around,
yes,
and then they start a musical.
Thank you. I'm remembering now.
Right, they kind of take it to the streets, and it becomes this big thing with a lot of people.
Where can I don't know if we're going over time. I'm so sorry.
No,
wherever you talk,
go for it.
I want to commend them as well, because this is the scene that I really noticed that they just had an ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't like a lot of other musical movies where they have dancers for specific scenes and it's a different group. They had it was a true like theater piece where you had, this is the cast,
mm-hmm.
and that's it. There's no more. There's maybe like a background act, like a couple background extras here and there, but like you watch the office scenes, you watch this one, the part, them walking through the town, which turns out it's Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. That when they're in the town square, that is Stars Hollow.
Wow.
So you have that, and you just see the same group of people, which made me really appreciate the musical theater aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think it does add a really nice touch to the film, like you mentioned. Like it kind of gives it that authenticity of what a stage production might be. Next up, Megan Thee Stallion, Alpha the Alpha song. I know we already briefly touched on it. If there's anything you want to add, go for it. But like I said, like I will buy this film and I will watch this music video so many times.
I think if anything, I'm like you. When they release the YouTube clips,
yes,
like this is the one I'm going to watch the most.
Of course.
Because like she's a badass bitch. I'm sorry. I know that's not like a good, nice term to call women.
I mean,
but
that's
like,
what they call her. So you're in the clear.
Yeah, and she's so badass, and she's so like. I don't listen to a lot of Megan Thee Stallion songs, but I feel like this is like a good representation of who she is as a performer.
Definitely.
And I loved it. I loved everything about it.
I'd be really interested to know, and I guess we'll see it play out as awards get closer, if A24 is going to try to kind of do any campaigning with a best original song here with her or anything like that. I would have loved to see her more in the movie, to be honest. I think she did really good with the screen time she was given, even outside of her song. I thought she had a really good dynamic with kind of owning that office and being that that bad bitch, like that really exceptional, powerful person in the film that the main characters, Trevor and Craig, like were not. And so I think that was a really good dynamic with them.
I'm ready for Megan Thee Stallion to also blow up as an actor.
Yes,
like
I'm here for it.
I want her in a horror movie. I want her in another comedy. I want her in like a mystery. I
Ooh.
want her in everything.
Yeah.
Like, give it to me. And it doesn't have to be A24 properties. It could be anything. It could be like a Disney movie, for
Sure.
fuck's sake.
I mean, hey, she is in She-Hulk, and she makes a great little cameo in She-Hulk, and
She does. That's right.
I did like that quite a lot, honestly, and a lot of people were torn on that. I was a big fan. Okay, just a few more here. So the restaurant meetup. This is like the big Parent Trap kind of moment where like they get back together. Come to find out that Nathan Lane's character is sometimes gay, which I think is a really funny ongoing bit of like not identifying what that is, so obviously like referred to and societal standards of like being bi. And so I think like his identification of like, I sometimes fuck guys when I can get them is really funny for his character. And then Megan Mullally's character of not having a pussy, but then both of them just being really horny and not wanting to get back together, I thought was really funny.
And then them destroying
the whole
restaurant scene with so Megan Mullally, we didn't talk about this. Megan Mullally is in a wheelchair.
Yes.
In a motorized wheelchair.
Yes.
And so there's a great physical humor where they're basically 69ing in the wheelchair whilst banging into other people. And there's in this scene, I think this is one of the few scenes that actually has like background extras that's not like the ensemble. I don't know. I didn't really clock everyone, but like they're banging into tables, spaghetti's being thrown everywhere. You're seeing them 69ing. I don't think it was Nathan Lane and Megan Mullally. I think they were stunt people.
Yeah.
Because who knows? I mean, who knows? I mean, it's A24. It seemed a little low budget, but like not to mean that in a bad way, but in like we have to obviously cut some corners. We're obviously redressing, some set pieces.
Yeah, definitely.
I would love to know where Megan Mullally and Nathan Lane's characters are supposed to be living, because those apartments do not exist anymore.
No, not even close. I thought Nathan Lane's song kind of right before the Sewer Boys like introduction to me was the funniest song of the entire film. There's something about Nathan Lane and he is actually going to be our A1 act tonight that he just like fits with this movie so seamlessly. Next up, and I'll kind of like lump these together. So we kind of get like the last 10 or 15 minutes. We get this big conclusion where they end up not getting back together. They kidnap Craig and Trevor and bring them back to their apartment. The Sewer Boys escape. We go to the sewers and find the Sewer Boys and send them back to their sewer monster family. This is where we get the CGI pussy from Megan Mullally's character, which just speechless, to be quite honest with you. I don't know.
The fact that there's actually when you watch when you see the bloopers, there's actually something that she's holding.
It's a physical prop.
Made a prop. That's insane.
That's insane.
And that poor prop person, like, must be in therapy because of this.
Yeah, big time. I hope A24 is paying therapy bills, to be honest. Like, that's least they could do in this situation. So we get the CGI pussy, and this kind of big sewer ordeal, and then we get, I guess, essentially the big kind of twist, if you will, at the very end, where the Trevor and Craig are kind of, they're laying in bed together. They're having some nightmares, very reminiscent of like a Step Brothers scene, which I thought was pretty funny.
They move in together,
right,
as well.
Yep. So they move in together because they realize they can't really do life apart, obviously. And they're looking at each other and they just start making out, and then they start having sex in all sorts of very comfortable and natural positions, of course. And they go.
If you thought the 69ing in the restaurant was wild,
oh boy,
this sex montage. It's a montage, everyone.
Yes.
Of who's on top, who's on bottom. This is like the new who's on first.
Yes.
Who's on top, who's on bottom. Is insane, and it goes on for like 5 minutes.
Uncomfortably long.
Like.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I mean, you're straight.
Sure.
But I was laughing my ass off
I,
at everything. Granted, I'm also just like, you know, we're the whole movie, we find out they're brothers and they're related, and so you're in that, but then also you have to remember that you're in this bizarre world
mhm.
where where somebody can lose their vagina that can grow eyes off of itself and talk. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I guess it's not that far fetched. They end up getting
oh,
married by God in the end. And basically,
which is Bowen Yang, by the way. We didn't mention God. God is played. Bowen Yang
yes,
plays God, and I'm assuming it's not. It's actually God that he's playing. It's
yes,
not like a figure, because there is that magic costume change that happens
right,
where he goes into this fabulous costume.
gorgeous,
Oh my god, the
gorgeous.
rhinestoning and everything,
Yeah,
bitch.
incredible stuff. Marries Craig and Trevor and busts out into this very fantastical final number of All Love Is Love. And, language warning, God is a faggot. And that is like
God is a faggot.
this incredible moment for the movie where you're really quite swirled up in, like, at least for me personally, of like, oh, what? Like, I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that, like, they're twins and they love each other and, like, they're having sex. Like, I'm trying to figure out where I stand on this, like, as a movie device. But then I'm also witnessing this really incredible final number that is making me laugh and has just an incredible Ron Swanson cameo, which I thought was insane. I know that's not his name, but yeah, Nick Offerman, thank you.
Without a beard, and it's freaking me out.
It's
like,
weird.
that freaks me out more than I think what was actually happening in the scene. Being like, I could see your chin. Gross.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Sick. I did want to mention real fast. So, of course, the big thing about this movie is that they're very brave gay men for making a film, about being heterosexual. But 2023, big year for gay love stories. Quite honestly, on the big screen, Strange Way of Life, Pedro Almodovar, which is I didn't necessarily connect with, but is representation there. We have this movie, and then for anybody that hasn't seen, I highly recommend Passages, a French film from this year that features Ben Whishaw having some incredibly explicit, very erotic gay sex for like 8 minutes long. So if you're interested, go check it out.
I will also like to recommend it was last year's movie. There's Fire Island, starring Bowen Yang, which took me way too long to realize it was gay Pride and Prejudice.
Sure.
But
it was there, though.
But like, it was a great, that movie I felt was like a stronger form of representation from what I've seen, because I've seen a few gay movies, and like, they're gay characters are usually the wacky one, or like they try to do gay rom-coms as straight rom-coms, but they always mess it up somehow.
Never clicks.
And I feel like that and Bros, the what's his name?
Yeah. Billy on the Street, Billy Eichner.
Billy Eichner, like those two got it. Yep. They understood it because they were written by queer people.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think it's great. Honestly, I think it's really funny. So I've already revealed my true cinema moment, which is when Nathan Lane's character spits ham at the sewer boys. A very close second is Megan Thee Stallion's entire number. I was just truly swept up in that gorgeous display. What, John, is your true cinema moment of the movie?
Can I say the whole thing?
Of course.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yes.
Because, like, you have great performances all around. It's a musical, heyo. With all original music, too. We didn't... I want to stress that. This is original music. They may be parodying things in it, but, like, it's not like a Weird Al kind of parody where they take the song and then they fuck with it a little bit. No, it's all original.
Yeah.
Everything. But like, if I had to actually like I can't pinpoint a moment, but because I like you liked the Ham moment because it's so bizarre.
So bizarre.
And you're like, what the fuck are sewer boys? I even said that in the trailer when they're like featuring the sewer boys. You're like, what? And then like Megan Thee Stallion is a godsend.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't just pick one. I'm sorry.
I respect that. I think in 112 episodes of the podcast, you were the first person to ever choose the whole movie. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I will send you a totally fake award in the mail. So well done,
Oh,
John.
I love totally fake awards. Thank you.
Just for you. Okay, so our A1 act, we're just gonna do Nathan Lane. I was trying to ponder if we could do like weird creatures in movies, because obviously we have the sewer boys. I know there's a lot of interesting Star Wars creatures out there and things. I, truth be told, did not have the brain capacity to dig deep for movie creatures today. So we didn't do that.
That's totally acceptable.
If there's a movie creature out there that you think is like weird or you love, like shoot us a tweet or DM us or something, get at us, comment on YouTube, let me know. But we're gonna stick with Nathan Lane. For the reason also that he was in another A24 movie this year as well. So I think it's worth kind of mentioning, figuring out what we like the best of his. So obviously we have Dix the Musical here. Joe versus the Volcano, The Lion King, The Birdcage, Mouse Hunt, Stuart Little, The Man Who Came to Dinner, Teacher's Pet, the animated TV show, The Producers, Swing Vote. I wanted to put this really, really weird credit on his IMDb on here. It says, Discover Blu-ray 3D with Timon and Pumbaa. You gotta give a shout out to Nathan Lane for sticking with the Timon voice through the years. He fucking did it, and he probably got a bag for it. So good for him.
Make that sweet Disney money.
Exactly.
I mean, when they want to give it to you.
Exactly. Only Murders in the Building, and like I mentioned, Beau is Afraid. I think probably Ben and I were both pretty lukewarm on Beau is Afraid, but I think we can both agree that you want to go home, Beau, and Nathan's line reading of calling Beau brother is like a top 2023 movie moment for both of us. I think it's really elite Nathan Lane stuff.
I haven't seen it yet, so I can't.
Yeah, a soft recommend. I mean, there are things in there that are very. I guess
I was intrigued by it.
Dix.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's very unhinged, to be honest with you.
It's a horror movie?
Question mark?
Or wants to be a horror movie?
We're not sure. We're still figuring it out. It's interesting. For all of these Nathan Lane options, obviously you can choose something that's not on this list if you have something that you like him in better or more than any options here. What would you choose for your Nathan Lane A1 act?
Really putting me on the spot here.
I know. It's tough. I can vamp for a minute, like I mentioned, like Beau is Afraid, but I think this is tough because I haven't really seen a lot of like Nathan Lane things. Like he's not someone I seek out, right? Like he just ends up being in stuff that I watch. So I will have to give it to Dix the Musical. I think he was my favorite part of this movie, to be quite honest with you. Like I think every moment with Nathan Lane worked just wonderfully in this film.
See, here's my reasoning, because his character in Dix the Musical is a combination of Max Bialystock in The Producers and I'm gonna name people are gonna take my gay card for this. I forget his name in The Birdcage. Like it is. You know what? I want to give it to The Producers because he also originated the role on Broadway. So, like obviously, oh my God, I'm so bad with names right now.
Oh no, you're putting me on the spot. I have to try to help you. This is tough for me.
You'll know.
His name was Albert in The Birdcage, by the way.
Albert, yes. Who wrote it? Who wrote The Producers?
That's a good question. I can search it as you search your mind. I will search my phone. Mel Brooks?
Oh my God. Mel Brooks. Yeah. He wrote the original movie.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks wrote the original movie with Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel. Those names I fucking remember. God damn it. And then he had a hand in writing the stage version where Nathan Lane and Mr. Sarah Jessica Parker starred in it together.
Hmm.
And that was the whole like idea that they did the movie as well. And so I think I I mean, I think I'm gonna pick the producers
I love
because
that.
it's also like a weird movie. If you haven't seen it, Ethan, I'm gonna suggest you watch it.
Okay.
Please forgive Uma Thurman.
Okay. I can do that. I can do my hardest. I know that she made some interesting decisions for a while.
And just remember, this is based off a Mel Brooks movie
Sure.
from the 70s.
Sure. Okay. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm mentally prepared now. Okay, so A24 ranking for this movie. It's just kind of our in-house like ranking. Similar to a 1 to 5 stars, if you will. We're gonna go A through F24. Where would you rank it? And you can do an A plus. You can do an A minus. You
read my mind. I want to give it an A plus 24 or A24 plus. I don't know where the plus sign is being added.
Yeah, we don't either, so it's okay.
A2 plus 4. Like it doesn't matter. Like this movie. Woo!
Yeah, I love that. I'm super stoked for you. A plus 24. Yeah, that's awesome.
A plus 24. Yes,
I love that. That's really awesome. I think there's a lot of this movie to like. Obviously, some of it didn't land with me. And I think part of that is due to like my viewing experience. Again, like I would recommend trying to go see it with a group of friends or with a full theater, maybe on opening night, or whatever the case may be. Have a couple of beers, have a couple of glasses of wine. I mean, I think like seeing it sober once is great.
Smoke a lot, smoke everything in sight.
Exactly. I think, there are movies that are just perform better when you are kind of in that headspace. So I think this can be one of those. I think based on my experience and what I did like, this is tough. I would probably give it like a B minus 24. I think I know. I'm really sorry. I think there's a lot to respect
Ethan, you're
here.
bumming me out. You're bumming me out, man.
I know.
Bumming me out.
But like it's just so difficult for me to take this.
I understand, but also you're willing to give it a second viewing.
Of course. Oh yes.
So
I will be viewing this again. Yes.
So maybe like what you said, it depends on the variables, how you're feeling that day.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we watched this like a couple days ago, so we're not remembering a lot of it, but like it's still there because we watched it.
Yeah.
Okay. You're bumming me out with your B minus, but like
approved by
John.
This
is your podcast. I don't know.
Thank God. I think it's just really hard for me to stack it up against certain A24 projects that I really deem as like an A or an A plus 24. I do think it's a really big watershed moment for the brand, to be honest with you. Like I think it's a big moment for the company of A24 to be like, this is our first musical. Like let's see how it goes. We're going to go off the wall with this and just really kind of shoot for the stars. And I really genuinely think most of it lands really, really well. And this is the cast to do it with. And this is the content to do it with under the A24 umbrella.
I'm looking forward to A24 doing another musical that is like serious. You know, like I could see them do, because the a lot of A24 movies I find are very serious. I mean, yes, like there's something to be said about the Daniels where they play with humor and everything, but like when you really like look at the metaphor and like take a step back and look at Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once, like it's a very serious story.
Yeah.
This one was just goofy and like wild and wacky, and so that's great. But like, I don't know, I could see them doing like Pride and Prejudice the musical, which I know there are stage versions of Pride and Prejudice the musical. So like, I don't mean that, but like you know what I mean,
that
something
vein.
along.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, totally. I hope that this is not A24's last musical. I hope that it performs well at the box office, and I hope that it does kind of find its footing in the culture and find its cult following pretty quickly. I think it will. I don't think it'll have a tough time with that. John.
So what would the cult name be though? Are we the Dickheads?
Oh, God, see, this is a tough question. I think there's no other way to go. You have to be the Dickheads.
I'm a dickhead.
We're both dickheads, man. We can own it. We can both own it. John.
No, wait. Question for you before we go. I know it's at the very end. I'm asking this, but like, Dicks the musical.
Yeah.
Is it because they're dicks or because they talk about their dicks?
I think, yeah.
Or is it a column A, column B thing?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a really, I think truthfully, I think it's a really smart play on, again, like that big tonal starter of like, we have massive dicks and we just fuck big titted girls all the time. And then they find out like they're actually gay. So I think that like Dicks the musical, it's an incredibly grabbing name, of course. Like the puns are endless essentially. So I think that a lot of thought went into that, and I think it really does play with that initial public perception without having seen the movie.
And at least it's Dicks the musical. It's not just called Dicks.
Right, of course.
Because I feel like it would have been a harder sell if it was just called, if there wasn't the musical.
Yeah, very difficult sell, in my opinion. So I think very smart title. John, thanks for coming on the show. This was awesome. This was a blast. I'm glad that we've both discovered that we're dickheads. I feel confident.
You're
and
so dickhead.
So happy about that. If people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
Oh, so I have a little podcast of my own. It's called Life's But a Song, as you said at the beginning. You can find me anywhere at But a Song Pod. It's where we talk about movie musicals or musical TV shows, or sometimes film stage productions. I also have another podcast called Movie Deja Vu. We are on hiatus for a bit. We're still figuring out because life.
Sure.
It's my co-host Shady and I. We compare similar movies by creating a verbal Venn diagram, and you can listen to that anywhere you're listening to this. And what are that? Instagram and Facebook are at Movie Deja Vu Pod, and Twitter is at Movie Deja Vu.
Okay, awesome.
I'm still calling it Twitter. I'm sorry, everyone.
Everyone will call it Twitter until the day we die. So don't worry about that. Awesome. Yeah, seriously, thanks for being on this pod. That was incredible time. Highly recommend you go check out Dicks the Musical nationwide October 20th. Be sure to go check that out. Next week on the pod, we are back to spooky season. We are Ben is going to be back with me as well. We are covering the movie In Fabric, a new movie for Ben and I. And then the week after that, we've got another collaborative draft coming, and things are going to get really out of control. We'll talk more about it next week and allude to it a little bit more. If you follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you would already know what's coming. So go check that out and see our calendar. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. What are your thoughts on Dicks the Musical? Let us know on Twitter or Instagram. We're at 24 Minutes of A24. We're also on TikTok and YouTube. You can watch our podcast on YouTube if you prefer a video format. You can watch John and I totally laugh at pretty much every scene that we talk about throughout the episode. So yeah, pretty good. You can also become a patron of the show. Join us on Patreon and support the podcast. We are covering David Fincher movies right now. We're getting ready for The Killer here in about 5 weeks. So we are trying to talk about some of the greatest movies of all time in 24 minutes or less. And if we don't do it, we have to take a spoonful of hot sauce on the next episode, and things get out of control really, really quickly. And it's really, really
fun.
Why
do you hate yourselves?
Exactly what we ask ourselves every single week when we record that Patreon. And it
may as well be the spoonful of cinnamon.
Oh, it's crazy. And a little incentive as well. If you haven't checked out the Patreon yet, and you're interested, every time we get a new patron, we also have to take a spoonful of hot sauce. So if you're thinking about it and you like to see us absolutely just do crazy things to ourselves, please become a patron. We won't be mad. We'll love you, but we'll also be very, very mad. So yeah, you should do it.
I have $5 to spare?
You should do it. Oh, yeah, do it absolutely. Yeah. So go check us out over there to talk about non-A24 movies. This was awesome, John. Thanks again. Super, super fun. Until next week, I'm Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.